Hello, I welcome you all to this wonderful and exciting video where we will be discussing about the brain. Okay, so we started this topic actually in our previous video. We looked at a number of things. Okay, we looked at all this. Okay, so if you haven't watched our previous video, I would urge you to watch. We started with looking at the human nervous system, and we discussed a number of things. Okay, we talked about the central nervous system, the peripheral nervous system. We talked about the neurons, and here are different types of neurons: the motor neuron, sensory neuron, and the interneuron or the relay neuron. We talked about sensory neurons in details: the motor neuron, the relay neuron, the synapse, the reflex actions. Okay, we talked about also a reflex arc, which is a path that's taken up and the body is responding in a reflex action. So today we'll talk about the brain. Now, we said the brain is part of what we call the central nervous system. Okay, the brain is part of what we call the central nervous system. And the central nervous system actually is made up of two things. You have the brain. That is what we are going to be discussing today. And you also have the spinal cord. Okay, the spinal cord. Okay, so these are things that make up the central nervous system. So the brain is an enlarged anterior, okay, an enlarged anterior. What does that simply mean? An enlarged anterior. It's found actually at the top of the spinal cord. Okay, it's made up of three regions. You have the forebrain. Now the forebrain is made up of the cerebrum, the hypothalamus, the pituitary gland, and olfactory lobe. Then there's the midbrain, which is made up of the optic lobe, and you have the hindbrain made up of the oblongata as well as the cerebellum. So let's look at a diagram of this cerebellum. All right. So as you can see, this is the spinal cord, and then it produces. So the brain starts just from here. All this is part of the brain. So the brain isn't just this part here. The brain begins here with the oblongata, medulla oblongata, and the cerebellum. Okay, and then it goes all the way like this. Here you have the pituitary gland. It's part of the brain, and there you have the hypothalamus. Okay, and then this we call it the midbrain. Okay, so you have actually the forebrain, which is this side, okay, made up of the cerebellum, the hypothalamus, and the pituitary gland. So this is part of the forebrain. Okay, and then the hindbrain, it looks like a hind. It's made up of the cerebellum and the medulla oblongata. And then you have the forebrain, which happens to be this side, made up of the midbrain, the midbrain, which is making up the optic lobe of the brain. So as you can see here, a proper diagram: the spinal cord. This side you have the medulla oblongata, and this one is called a pons. You have the cerebellum this side. Okay, the hypothalamus is shown nicely, and the pituitary gland, as you can see. The midbrain, you have the cerebral hemisphere. Okay, so these are parts that make up the human brain, and we're going to look at what each of these parts actually do. Okay, we're going to look at what each of these parts will actually be doing. Okay, so to start with, we're going to begin with this structure called the medulla oblongata. So the medulla oblongata, it serves as a link, as you can see, between the brain this side and the spinal cord. and it conducts nerve impulses between these two. So it conducts nerve impulses between the brain and the spinal cord. It controls what we call automatic responses, okay? And these are things that you have to put in mind when you think of the medulla oblongata. It controls automatic processes. And what are these automatic processes? We are talking about processes that actually they happen on their own automatically, unconscious, okay? Or you can say they're unconscious sometimes, okay? So for example, the heart rate, heartbeat, breathing rate, okay? So all these things that happen automatically, okay? Swallowing is one of them, okay? It's an automatic thing, actually. It's a reflex action. Salivating, when you see food, that automatically happens. You begin to salivate. When you think about food, okay, you're very hungry, you will salivate. Dust particles enter your nose, you automatically sneeze, and also coughing. So these are just some of the processes that the medulla oblongata actually controls, okay? And that is what you have to know. So here we're talking about what? All these automatic processes, okay, under the medulla. Then here we have the cerebellum, which is this protruding structure here, okay? It looks something like this, okay? So the cerebellum controls coordinated movements, okay? It has that function of controlling all coordinated movements. It helps in maintaining your posture. It also controls the sequences of activities. So dancing is a quite complicated, coordinated movement, because you have to coordinate your body. Many parts of the body are coordinated when somebody's dancing. So when you see a person dancing, all you think about this, that the cerebellum is working very well, okay? Acrobatics, same thing. Also playing of musical instruments, okay? For example, myself, I play the keyboard or the piano, okay? So during that time, it's the cerebellum that actually coordinates that playing of instruments. And then from here, so here you just think of all coordinated bodily movements, okay? You have to coordinate your brain and your body together to do these things. And then here you go to the hypothalamus, which is a very important part. It is regarded as the center of homeostasis because it regulates a lot of things, okay, under homeostasis, okay? So this it has what we call a thirst center, hunger centers. Also, it's known as a thermoregulator because it regulates the temperature of the body. So it's one that controls thirst, okay? You feeling thirsty, okay? The centers are found in the hypothalamus. Also, you feeling hungry, the centers are found in the hypothalamus, okay? So it's a center of homeostasis, okay? Last but not the least, we talk about this large part here, the cerebrum. So the cerebrum is the largest part of the brain, and it's the center of what? Intelligence, memory, language, consciousness. So it has both motor and sensory areas. The motor areas control voluntary movement, okay, and the sensory areas interpret sensations and are linked by association areas. Injury to the cerebrum lowers intelligence. So this is the part that actually serves for intelligence, memory, language, and all voluntary movement. Why voluntary movement? This is because you want to you need to decide and make decisions when using the cerebrum, okay? And unlike the medulla oblongata, which controls involuntary processes, for example, things like your heartbeat. No one can stop the heartbeat on their own, okay? It's involuntary, okay? Your breathing rate, it's involuntary, okay? You can't control it in any way, okay? So you find that all these processes that you're able to control are done by the cerebrum, okay? Once this is injured, your intelligence is lowered. Okay. And many diseases that affect the cerebrum, you find that those diseases that come due to old age, okay, those disorders that make old people forget easily, means there's something to do with the cerebrum. Okay. And a lot of things that can actually occur here. So the cerebrum, it's divided in many parts. You have so you see the way the brain is made up with all these folds. Okay, that increase actually the large makes increase the surface area of the brain. Okay, so we're not going to go much into details, and this is all you need to know. Then the other part here we haven't talked about is the pituitary gland. This gland, a gland, it what secretes actually a number of hormones that also control the body. Okay, but since we are not talking about the endocrine system, we'll discuss this pituitary gland under the endocrine system properly. Okay, so quickly we start looking at sense organs. So we talked a bit about the sense organs, and what we said was under the nervous system. We talked about the sense organ. Initially, I gave mostly the example under the skin, but these are the sense organs we have: the eye, the skin, the nose, the tongue, and the ear. Okay. So sense organ is an organ that is responsible for detecting one or more stimuli. Examples are these here. The examples of stimuli they detect: the eye detects light, the skin detects touch, temperature, pressure, and pain. The nose the eyeball. Okay, it maintains the shape of the eyeball and other functions that we are going to discuss. Now, going outside here, so the white substance I said is the sclera. Now you have a dark substance here which is filled with a lot of blood vessels. It is called the choroid, and we'll discuss the choroid. After the choroid, inside you have the retina. Now the retina now is what plays a huge function in the eyes function, okay, in terms of seeing. Okay, so you have the retina there. Then you have the fovea centralis. It's got the yellow spot. Then you have a blind spot, and you have the nerves where which are connected to the brain. Okay, you have the optic nerve there, which is connected to the central nervous system, and we're going to discuss in detail now about the eye. So this was just the external structure, and also the eyebrows and the eyelashes. They have a function of actually preventing dust particles from reaching the eye. Okay, so it's very not good idea to cut off your eyelashes and eyebrows for whatever reasons. Okay, they play that nice function to protect the eyes. Okay, so we talked about the sclera. So the sclera is just this white substance. So whenever you look at somebody's eyes and you can see that white substance here, that's the sclera that you're looking at. So it's a tough fibrous outer coat which maintains the spherical shape of the eyeball. Okay, it also protects the eye against damage. So it protects the eye against damage, the inside part of the eye. It also provides attachment for external eye muscles. Okay, so the rectus and the oblique muscles which move the eye in the socket. So you have muscles that are able to move the eye in the socket. Okay, so that's the function of the sclera here. So it is white and opaque. So opaque, we simply mean that it does not allow light to pass through it. Okay, opaque is just the opposite word to transparent. Okay, so the sclera is not transparent. So no matter how much light can try to hit this part, it doesn't pass through to go inside the eye. Okay, light will only pass through the eye once it hits the pupil. Okay, once it comes inside the pupil. Okay, because the sclera is transparent. I mean, it's opaque. Okay, so and it's covered by this transparent material called the cornea that we are going to discuss now. So now we talk about the cornea. So the cornea covers everything here. It's a transparent section of the sclera found in front of the eye. It does most of the refraction of light rays from an object. So this also, the cornea, it has a function of refraction of light. So this is where refraction of light actually begins, okay, from an object, okay, in the cornea. So this leads to formation of an inverted and diminished image. This is what you've got to know. So now the cornea is this part here. So once light comes like this, it is refracted into an inverted and diminished image. Okay, so it comes like that, it passes here. Okay, be a miss because light doesn't so here we find that light can come in, then it bends, okay, because of refraction, goes through the lens and then scatters like that. Okay, so the refraction will begin to take place just there. Okay, so this is what you see. So the cornea is transparent, meaning it allows light to pass through. That's why refraction actually takes place. Okay, it's a transparent material. Now we talk about the choroid, this dark substance here. It's a dark layer that contains blood vessels, and these blood vessels, they supply blood. Okay, they supply blood and food to the eye. Okay, so the blood vessels provide food and oxygen to the cells of the retina. So the retina is, we're going to look at the retina after this, and you'll see how important this retina is, and why it has to be supplied with food and oxygen. Okay, so the dark color, it limits internal reflection so that clear images are formed. So it's dark so that it can limit, because when you look at the refractions and the images formed here, they can't go beyond the choroid. So it will limit internal refractions because if your choroid is distorted here, you find that you'll be forming different very different types of images, okay, that are not clear. So if refraction is coming from this side because of refraction and the other one is coming from this side, you find that your images are not clear. So it is dark so as to limit these internal reflections from taking place, so your eye can form clear images. Okay, so the eye forms clear. So the eye works just like a camera, it forms an image, okay, and because of what this refraction. Now let's look at this important structure called the retina, and we see how it refracts light. So the retina is this part, this structure here, which is inside the innermost, okay, where you have the yellow spot and the blind spot. So this is a layer containing light sensitive cells, okay, very important to know. Light sensitive cells, and these light sensitive cells, they have two types, and we'll look at them. So on these cells is where images form and light energy is converted into nerve impulses, okay. So here this light energy is converted to an impulse, and that impulse comes out here through the optic nerve, okay. So if you haven't watched my previous videos, you wouldn't understand what an impulse is, okay. So you watch the previous video, especially on the human nervous system. So the light that strikes the eye is converted to an electrical impulse and goes through the optic nerve to the brain, there it is interpreted, okay. So images are formed where? On the retina, okay. So there are two types of these light sensitive cells found on the retina, and you have the first type is called, they're called the cones, and the rods. So the cones form clear detailed color images because they've got high light intensity, okay, bright light. The portion of the retina having the higher concentration of cones is called the fovea. So the fovea here has a high concentration of these cones. Cones are what? The light sensitive cells, and these, they form clear and detailed color images, okay, because of that high light intensity. And then the portion of the retina having high concentration of it is called the yellow spot, and forms the most detailed color. So the rods form blurred black and white images and are found at low intensity spot, okay, the low intensity spot where there is a dim light, okay. So find that here you find the large concentration of what? Cones, okay, and you can find some rods scattered in other places where there is dim light, but here there's high concentration of light here where you find these cones, and here the images formed are very clear and color, but the images formed on the rods are blurred and black and white, okay, because they occur at a low light intensity, okay, which is you can say dim light, okay. Let's talk about the blind spot. What is happening here at the blind spot? A portion that we're talking about here, the blind spot, it's the exit point of the optic nerve, as you can see, and here it has completely no light sensitive cells, hence the light falling there cannot be detected. That's why it's called the blind spot. Any light that will come here, it can be detected. It's called the blind spot because it does not detect any light, okay. So what have we discussed so far? We've talked about the cornea, the pupil, okay, the lens, not in detail. We've talked about the sclera, the choroid, the retina, okay. So the vitreous humor, which is this fluid inside here, it's a jelly-like fluid which keeps the eyeball in shape and also refracts light rays, supports the lens. So the lens is supported because of this fluid and keeps the retina in place, okay, in place of the rear, at the rear of the eye. The aqueous humor is this fluid which is here. It is watery fluid which supports the cornea and keeps it in what? In shape, okay. So I hope to teach in detail some of these things, especially on the iris and the pupil, some spacer ligament and the theory body. So the functions of the eye is just to focus light, okay. It allows us to see, okay. These are the functions of the eye, and also we'll talk about what we call accommodation in our next video.